Bukhari. At Badr, the Prophet ordered the corpses of 24 Quraysh leaders to be thrown into a pit. It was a habit of the Prophet that whenever he conquered people, he used to stay at the battlefield for 3 nights.
To gloat.
On the 3rd day he ordered his she-camel saddled, and he set out. His companions followed, saying, "The Prophet is proceeding for some great purpose." When he halted at the edge of the pit, he addressed the corpses of the Quraysh infidels by their names. "O so-and-so and son of so-and-so, why didn't you obey Allah's apostle? I have found true what my Lord promised me. Have you found true what your Lord promised you?" Umar said, "O apostle, you are speaking to the dead." Muhammad said, "Allah brought them to life again, to let them hear me, to reprimand them, to slight them, and so that I might take my revenge over them." Then he quoted the holy verse out of the Quran, "You cannot make the dead listen or the deaf to hear your call until they believe our signs and come into submission."
This became Quran 30:52. Both Prophet and his spirit needed men to obey. They required full and unquestioned submission. That, in a nutshell, was what Islam was all about. The first Muslim historian covers the despicable dialogue in a manner that nails Mohammed's motives.
Tabari. The messenger uttered these words, "O people of the pit, you were evil fellow tribesmen to your prophet. You disbelieved me when other people believed me. You drove me out when other people gave me shelter. You fought me when other people came to my aid."
This sorry excuse for a human wasn't finished gloating.
Ishaq. The apostle's companions heard him get up in the middle of the night. He went to the pit and said, "O people of the pit," enumerating all who had been thrown into the dirty well, "I have found what my Lord promised me to be true."
Normal men would have been repulsed by the sight and smell of rotting corpses, but not this one. He was inspired. So was his spirit, the Lord of the pit. This next vignette is equally disturbing. The foolishness of Islam is behind us. All that remains is tragic.
Tabari and Ishaq. Utbah was dragged to the well. Muhammad looked into the face of his son Abu, who was dejected. "I fear perhaps some sadness has entered you on account of your father." "No, by Allah, O Prophet of Allah," Abu replied. "I had no misgivings about my father, nor about his death, but I knew my father to be a judicious, wise, forbearing, cultured, and virtuous man. I used to hope that these qualities would lead him to Islam."
No, these are the qualities that kept him from Islam. The skirmish over, it was time to divvy up the spoils. The next section of Al-Tabari begins under the headline,
"The Division of Booty." In Tabari and Ishaq. The messenger of Allah gave orders concerning the contents of the camp which the people had collected, and it was all brought together. Among the Muslims, however, there was a difference of opinion concerning it. Those who had collected it said, "It is ours." Muhammad promised every man that he could keep the booty he took. Those who were fighting said, "If it had not been for us, you would not have taken it. We distracted the enemy from you so that you could take what you took." Those who were guarding the Prophet for fear the enemy would attack him said, "By Allah, you have no better right to it than we have. We wanted to kill the enemy when Allah gave us the opportunity and made them turn their backs, and we wanted to take property when there was no one to protect it. But we were afraid that the Meccans might attack the Prophet, so we protected him, so you have no better right to it than we have."
These covetous and militant marauders were the antithesis of Christ's disciples. According to Mohammed's gospel, it was good to kill for money, but it's bad to argue about it later.
When we quarreled about the booty, we became very bad-tempered. So Allah removed it from our hands and handed it over to His messenger. He divided it equally among the Muslims. In this matter, there can be seen fear of Allah, obedience to His messenger, and the settling of differences.
This was the proposition and the conclusion. Islam was about money. Islam made men mad. Mohammed and Allah were partners. Mohammed was to be obeyed. Allah was to be feared. Muslims were enticed into submission.
Bukhari. The total number of Muslim fighters from Mecca who fought at Badr and were given a share of the booty were 81. When their shares were distributed, their number was 101. But Allah knows it better.
And the great deceiver was ever ready to help his pal pile up the booty.
Ishaq. The spoils of war surah came down from Allah to His Prophet concerning the distribution of the booty when Muslims showed their evil nature. Allah took it out of their hands and gave it to the apostle. Tabari. Allah's messenger came back to Medina, bringing with him the booty which had been taken from the polytheists. There were 44 captives in the messenger of Allah's possession. There was a similar number of dead. Ishaq. Muhammad halted on a sand hill and divided the booty Allah had given him equally. Then Muslims from Medina met him at Ruha. They congratulated him on the victory Allah had granted, but one of the warriors replied, "What are you congratulating us about? We only met some bald old women like the sacrificial camels who were hobbled, and we slaughtered them." The apostle smiled, because he knew that description fit.
By any historical or rational criterion, the Battle of Badr was meaningless, a tussle between militants and merchants. And yet Mohammed turned it into a miracle from Allah, and he used it to resurrect his dying doctrine. The disciples' bloodlust led to these chilling lines.
Ishaq and Tabari. When the apostle was in Safra, Nadr was assassinated. When Muhammad reached Irq al-Zabya, he killed Uqbah. When the Holy Prophet ordered him to be killed, Uqbah said, "Who will look after my children, Muhammad?" "Hell fire," the apostle replied, and he was killed.
No Geneva Convention here.
Ishaq. Umar said to the apostle, "Let me pull out Suhail's front teeth. That way his tongue will stick out and he will never be able to speak against you again." Tabari and Ishaq. Sada,
the Prophet's second wife,
said, "I went to my house, and the messenger was there with Abu Yazid,
a Meccan prisoner.
His hands were tied to his neck. I could not restrain myself when I saw Yazid like that, and I shouted out to him. So Muhammad asked, 'Sada, are you trying to stir up trouble against Allah's messenger?' This brought me back to my senses." Ishaq. Bind Abu Aziz tight, for his mother is rich, and she may ransom him for a great deal of money.
Allah's prophet proclaimed, confirming that Islam was all about the money.
Tabari and Ishaq. Among the captives was Abu Wada. Muhammad said, "He has a son who is a shrewd merchant with much money."
The son
slipped away at night, went to Medina, and ransomed his father for 4,000 dirhams.
There was no preaching, no Quran recitals, no message of salvation. Just give me the money.
Tabari and Ishaq. The Prophet said, "Abbas, you must ransom yourself, your two nephews, Akil and Nafal, and your confederate, Utbah, for you are a wealthy man." Muhammad, Abbas said, "I was a Muslim, but the people compelled me to fight against my will. Allah knows best concerning your Islam." Muhammad said, "If what you say is true, Allah will reward you for it. And as for your outward appearance, you have been against us. So pay to ransom yourself." Muhammad had previously stolen 20 ounces of gold from him following the battle. So Abbas says, "Credit me with this amount toward my ransom." "No," Muhammad replied, "the money Allah has already taken from you and given to us."
Islam equals money, not souls. The hadith remains transparent.
Ishaq. The Muslims told Abu Sufyan to pay a ransom to free his son, Umar. He replied, "Am I to suffer the double loss of my blood and my money?" After you have killed my son Hanzalah, you want me to pay you a ransom to save Umar?
How on earth do Muslims see this behavior as religious and good?
Bukhari. The Badr warriors were given 5,000 dirhams each yearly. Umar,
the future caliph,
said, I will always give them more than what I give to the others.
And while money was good, Mohammed craved even more.
Bukhari. Umar said, when my daughter Hafsa lost her husband in the battle of Badr, Allah's apostle demanded her hand in marriage, and I married her to him.